So mindfulness really simply is paying attention to the present moment non-judgmentally. And the reason why that needs to be taught is because there's so much going on inside our heads that distract us from what's really going on right now. And the stories that we tell ourselves and the fears that we have and the imagination kind of running away with itself put us in a mindset that we are actually not present with what's happening right now. And this can take form in so many different ways. It can manifest itself. This distractibility, lack of focus, lack of attention, lack of awareness. And so you could be by yourself and you could be just lost in thought until you come to your senses, right? So the senses are really pivotal and central to learning mindfulness because you're waking up to your five senses. Your five senses uniquely are communicating to your brain data about the present moment. Now, compare that to your imagination, which is kind of a sixth sense of experience, of awareness. You have your imagination also presenting data to your brain. So if I am, eating a meal and I'm sitting here and I'm drinking a drink and I'm eating a meal, what's really happening in this moment? There's this food, there's this drink, and I'm in this moment. But in my mind, I might just be stressing out about something or ruminating about something or beating myself up about something or just thinking about something else that happened previously or something that I'm anticipating happening later. And the idea is that imagination, my brain at work, in my mind creating these thoughts that I'm actually paying attention to, is keeping me distracted from the taste of the food I'm eating, the taste of the drink I'm drinking. And maybe I'm not paying attention to, if I'm eating healthy or if I'm eating enough or if I'm eating too much or whatever the case might be. So just to very simply lay it out, mindfulness as a basic idea is learning how to turn away from the distractions and towards the present moment. Now, you might need to actually figure things out. There are problems to solve. There are, conversations to reflect on. There are plans to make. It doesn't mean that you can't do that if you're being mindful. It just means you're doing it intentionally. So if you're sitting down to eat the meal, you're maybe thinking to yourself, okay, while I'm eating this meal, I need to also figure out how I'm going to get everything done for the rest of the day. And then you might decide to intentionally do that. And then you're going to actually most efficiently come up with a game plan for the rest of your day. But that's very different from the distractedness of how we're typically living inside of our head. Now, why this is important for relationships and for this experience of being single or dating or being in a relationship, being married, communication in general is deeply handicapped by our distractedness. If I'm eating this meal and then I'm not present with the meal, I miss out on something. But the meal doesn't miss out on anything because the meal is not a person. The meal is a thing, and things don't have feelings. So the meal's not missing out. I'm missing out because I'm not enjoying the meal. I'm not appreciating or knowing the meal for what it really is because I'm not present with it in my mind. But at the end of the day, the food's gone, it's eaten, it's a meal, it's done. Imagine when the thing in your present moment is not a thing, but a person. Imagine when it's a person sharing himself or herself to you, and in your head, you're living in another world of imagination where you're thinking other thoughts that don't have to do with being present with this person communicating himself or herself to you. That's going to be not only bad for you because you're missing out on experiencing this person, but it's also deeply, deeply hurtful to the other person. We know the principle of love and responsibility. A person is to be loved and not used. A person is a self-communicating, even if incommunicable, and totally unique and unrepeatable being. But we exist constantly communicating ourselves. We want to be known. Now think about this. This is like the deepest wound that most people carry in their lives, is the pain of not being known. In our families of origin, we might have had different experiences that have taught us that we're not worth being known. We're not going to be known. We have to do all the work to deserve being known. Or at the end of the day, trying to be known is really dangerous and we're going to end up hurt. So all these experiences are coming from this innate human desire to communicate ourselves outwards and be received and known by another person. This is what it is to be human. This is the foundation for a relationship. In order to be known by another person, the other person has to be paying attention to us. And if we reverse that, in order to know another person, you have to be paying attention to the other person. Now, is it starting to make sense a little bit why mindfulness is so deeply, radically important? We need to learn the skills to turn away from the distractions in our head so that we can actually pay attention to the person who's communicating himself or herself to us. That doesn't just come from praying harder. That doesn't just come from hoping and wishing that you're going to be better at paying attention to somebody. It takes practice. And we need to put into practice healthy exercises to get better at strengthening our ability to focus on the present moment. That present moment might be a meal. It could be paying attention at Mass. When you're in Mass, what's happening at the sacrifice at the altar? What are the words of the priest? What are the words of Scripture? What is the Eucharist? The Eucharist is Jesus giving himself, body, blood, soul, and divinity, for us to receive. How much of us is present in the Mass? Are we really receiving him with our minds and our hearts, along with our tongue, as we receive him in his body? That's not the only part of Jesus that we're at Mass to receive. So we want to train ourselves in these skills. And then when it comes to being in a relationship, we are going to be radically and profoundly affected by our ability to be present.